Well, I can't be the only one with the picture.
All right. So I just want to call to order the April 11th, 2022 Caroline County Broadband Advisory Committee meeting. David sent out the agenda earlier. Hopefully everybody got a chance to review it. I've got it up here on my screen. Is there any amendments that we want to make to this agenda?
Jason, I would move that we just that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the March 14th meeting. I'll send those out to everyone at a later time, and we can adopt them at the next meeting.
Okay. That'll work. If everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, we'll get right into business here. Old business. We'll jump straight into that. David, do you want to give us an update on the railroad crossing?
There's no further update at this time. We're still finalizing the last drawing, which is the depth drawing, just to make sure that that's under the railroad track, which is the big challenge with getting a permit. Once that's done, we should be ready to go out to contract with that. So that is still moving along. We're still making progress on that.
Okay.
Hey, David?
Yes, sir.
We're going to go under the tracks at Page Road, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're crossing at Panola, Page, Woodford, and Guinea.
Okay.
Do we, David, do we have any idea when we would be going out to contract on this?
Not at this point. It's just, I mean, we would have to get everything ready to submit to the railroad first and get those permits. So.
And do we have any timeline on that, or?
No, I have not been provided with a timeline since the last update. So
okay, cool.
I'll follow up with staff to see where we're at as far as the review of the drawings.
Okay.
And I think, Jason, the last time we talked with staff, it was probably a 45 to 90 day time frame from when we got all the paperwork.
Okay.
I guess the good thing is that, you know, we're still set to be well ahead of any construction in those areas. So,
yeah, I was just wondering. The only reason I was asking is if we, you know, when we go out for the VATI grant this year, we can put that in there as an infrastructure update aside from what we're requesting from VATI. We're going to be doing this no matter what, and maybe that'll help increase our scores.
Yeah, we used that as leverage that we had planned to move forward with this in the last application. August the 25th is the preliminary deadline. It's out for public comment now. If you guys haven't seen it, the new guidelines or a draft of the new guidelines has been released, but they're in a public comment period, so they're not finalized at this point. But you can download the draft guidelines, I believe, from the VATI website. And it looks like right around the 25th of August will be the deadline. So hopefully we'll be well into, if not finished, with a lot of that by then.
Okay. So here it is here. The draft 2023 guidelines. And then here's the actual timeline for that as it stands right now, subject to change.
So it looks like May 20th, the final guidelines will be finalized and released. So we're in the public comment period now. I've looked through those; they look very similar to last year. So with the exception of I didn't see any dollar amounts, and that's probably one thing that'll have to be changed prior to the final, based on. Mr. Seeley, where is the state with their budget?
They are in negotiations, House and Senate.
Aren't they supposed to meet again next week?
They were supposed to meet again this week, but I don't think it's going to happen.
So that's probably one reason why they're still in draft. But
Okay.
Once there's a budget number attached, then the final amount will show up. But I know everybody's been watching the draft guidelines, and they just came out April 1st, and I've gone through them roughly, quickly, and they look very similar. I haven't gone through them real close yet, but will prior to the 19th, which is we'll make any comments. But we obviously, they didn't change the timeline. That's one request that Mr. Seeley and myself and Mr. Thomas made when we met with DHCD in our follow-up. They didn't move the timeline forward, but then again, seeing the massive amount of changes within that department that's taken place, I could see why they were really, there's just no way they could have done it.
Okay.
So,
A quick question there, David. The consulting firm that we've hired, have they identified any federal grants that we could apply for?
Each month we get a report, and we followed a few of the federal grants that they've identified, but most of those were tied to things that we just didn't qualify. We haven't qualified for any. In fact, they sat through a meeting with me and the Virginia, or not Virginia, but the Federal Housing Administration, Department of Agriculture, for one of theirs, and that was more or less that the funds that were available in that program were for localities that wanted to actually become broadband providers, which in Virginia you're prohibited from doing that. So the ones that we've investigated, each one that was a possibility. Of course, when we started getting the reports, some of them were right there at the deadline, and we approached some potential or partner with the east side of Caroline in the VATI grant process, and due to the timelines, they were unable to go on record as being a partner for that application, just because of the amount of data that the federal requires. So at this point, we're watching that list that we get from the consultant, and lining up, knowing that the deadlines are pretty much year to year. So we're continuing to watch those, Mr. Thomas, and they're following up with a full report every month.
Well, I know you mentioned USDA, which has been out there, and Caroline being rural, we ought to get some credit from the Department of Agriculture, but there's another one from the Department of Commerce that I think is out there, so we need to have them look at it. I got an email about it from a Broadband, I guess, email string that I'm on, or mailing list I'm on. So I'll send it to you and Jason, and maybe we can follow up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Anything else on the railroads? I know we kind of expanded on the railroads. Anything else on that one? All right. Hearing nothing else, we'll move right into the RFP updates. David, do you want to give an update on that?
So our deadline to respond to the RFP is tomorrow at 3:00. We did receive one submission early. So as of right now, we have one submission, but based on the email traffics and questions that we've had, I expect at least a couple more tomorrow by the deadline. So I think we will have some quality respondents to work with. There's also been posted to the county network or the county website, as well as the EVA, I think it is, website where the RFP actually was originally posted, a list of all questions that were submitted to me in writing prior to the 14-day blackout period towards the end, and all of the responses. So any question that any respondent asks, and the responses are available to all, respondents that are getting ready to submit the RFPs. So at this point, we are still awaiting the deadline, and we'll know more tomorrow at 3:00 as to how many we have. Of course, the responses that we have have not been open. No, they will not be open till after the deadlines.
Okay. Any questions on the RFPs? All right. Again, David, would you like to update us on the VATI 2021 progress?
Yes. So some of the construction in I believe the Port Royal area may have been released to construction. So they will actually start actual construction in those areas shortly. I believe all our projects are broken down into 3 areas. Just prior to end of business day today, I received an updated map that our consultant that we have hired has prepared at my request, showing the location of a dot. Each house that's going to be served by VATI 2021 has a dot on the map. So we plan to get that up on the website so people can look at that and determine whether it's coming into their areas or not. But it's a really interesting map, and I'll send that out to you guys as well, so you have a copy of it. But that'll be going up on the county website as well. We have an actual project managers meeting tomorrow morning, so I don't have a lot of real up-to-date information until tomorrow morning. But that's what we had received at our last meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the 2021 VATI?
Just keep in mind one thing that we keep getting reminded at our managers meeting, the order in which some of these one of these 3 projects will be completed. The orders moved around a little bit due to supply chain issues on the big transceiver that is needed to run each of those 3 areas. One of the particular transceivers is on back order, so they've moved the projects around so that they could go ahead and move forward with the ones that they do have everything. In the areas that they don't have, for example, the big main transceiver, the main laser, those are due in by November. Overall, the project is still on schedule. The actual deadline of that project or the deadline that's being imposed by DHCD is January 30th of 2023. And we're still on goal to finish by December 31st of this year. So as of right now, supply chain issues haven't had any overall effect on the finishing of the project. I did make Breezeline aware that we would like to plan a ribbon cutting in Caroline, since it is a multi-jurisdictional application and project, there was some question as whether we wanted to just have one or but I've requested that we have a ribbon cutting in Caroline, which would be later on this year. So,
David, can I get you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot on this, but when you said we're on track to have this finished by December 31st, 2022, what is the definition of that you mean of finished? Construction or sales?
no, their project, they'll have, I mean, in order for Breeze Line to be considered finished, they'll have to have customers signing up. So
Okay.
it's gone to construction now. I'm hearing probably early summer, they should have sales in all three project areas, actually knocking on doors. The main thing we want to be careful with is some of the other localities that started just a little bit ahead of us ran into issues with private roads. The problem that construction was running into was just because you have an address on a street does not mean that that street is a public road. A lot of the other localities are like Caroline, where private drives that have more than X number of houses can be assigned a street name. And so they ran into some issues where in construction, it was unclear as to whether a road was private or public. And so there were some right-of-way issues. So they've had to back up a little bit. They're going out and revisiting that, and hopefully, can get those right-of-ways signed. But if we were to send a message to the public, which I hope we're doing by discussing this, is that if you see information coming from Breeze Line to get permission to go across a private right-of-way, if you could please respond when you get those, just so that doesn't end up holding up the completion of the project overall.
Thank you, David. I didn't mean to put you on the spot with what the definition complete is. I just wasn't sure when we said that, which piece of what is VADI consider complete. So, okay.
So VADI would consider complete for this year's project as construction complete, sales complete, or at least ongoing. There is, and that's the reason why it's kind of gray as to what is complete, because there is a 1 year to 5 year tracking of the percentage of people that sign on.
Right.
So that will not be, they have like so many years to get the number of customers that they've, set as their target. But in order for them to be complete, construction would have to be complete and speeds verified at different points throughout the system. So
okay, perfect. All right.
I apologize if I'm not sounding exactly with it. I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment. So, and that's another reason, Mr. Thomas, that I turned my camera off.
Well, I turned mine off too, so we'd all be the same.
There you go. All right. Any other questions or anything about the VADI 2021? All right. If not.
So, yeah, one quick thing, Jason.
Yes, sir.
It was really important when we had the successful one in 2021 that we had citizen petitions and emails from people that said they wanted it and signed up. I'm not sure how much that helped in the scoring, but it had to have some weight. So as we do this next one for 2022, that's what we'll need to let folks know, that it would be important if you had a petition for your road or you sent the county emails, your board of supervisor member, about how important it would be to have broadband. I think that would help.
Okay. And I think maybe next meeting, we should go ahead and dig and, David, I'll work with you on it. But when we come up for the agenda for next next month, we'll go ahead and put a mark on there for the 2023 VATI grant process. So that way we can start gathering some of this information well ahead of when it needs to be out there and start coming up with lists that we can start working on and things like that.
Yep, letters of support for the project, and which I think we'll be in better shape to do that once we're past that deadline and the guidelines are out. And
right,
hopefully by then we can get a list of respondents to the RFP to the Board of Supervisors, and they can make their recommendation moving forward with that as well. So it's a lot of work between now and well, within the next couple of months, it's going to be a lot of work, but we'll keep everybody informed on where we're at with that.
Perfect. Anybody have anything else? All right. If not, I'll take the last one here, which is number 4 on Starlink. I've been following this quite very, very heavily and following what Starlink is doing. Just recently on Starlink.com, let me move this over real quick just to make sure. Starlink.com, and pull this back over here. Starlink actually put this little indicator on their homepage. There's a little map indicator pinpoint that you can click on. This is something that people in the communities, the Starlink forums and everything have been asking for some time. And this is a map of where Starlink is currently available and where people are on waiting lists. So with this map, you can see the bright green is currently available, and kind of a muted green is everybody is on a waiting list. So inside of the United States, you can zoom in, and we can continue to zoom in on Virginia. There's quite a few cells that are actually active for sales inside of Virginia itself. And then as we zoom in on Caroline County, you can see from right down here around Sparta Road, Locust Grove Road and Sparta Road up through, as you zoom in, you can come over here, Supply Road, part of Quarter Hill Road, back up into Port Royal, Hicks Landing, that area, Sales Corner. And I'm just kind of calling out some of these main thoroughfares that we can kind of, kind of come back up in here to Fredericksburg Turnpike. This whole light green area is currently an active sale that anybody located within inside of this cell is available for immediate order according to their website for Starlink service. There would be no waiting list. Now, granted, as sales continue and the spots get taken up, they could put this cell back on a waiting list. So if you're inside of this area, please be sure to check your address. The way that you can tell whether or not your cell or your address is available for immediate shipping of Starlink, when you actually go out to the main website, let me go back out here to home. You can put in your service address here. And if you click order now, if the overall price is $99, that means you will be put on a waiting list for it. If it comes up and says that it is $600, I forget exactly what the price is now because they have increased the price not only for the units, but also for the service. If you see the total amount there, that means that you are available for instant shipping of the Starlink system. With that, it usually takes, from what I'm reading online, anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the supply. You will get an email when it actually gets shipped out from FedEx. So that way you can track your order. The currently, as of today, and the last thing that I read, the service has gone from $99 to $110 per month. So there was a price increase that was announced. I think that was 2 weeks ago, David, that they announced that.
Yeah, I think so. Just keep in mind the cost increase on the dishes. I believe if you have a deposit in, I believe they're going to still honor that the older price for the dish, as far as I know.
No, so I've been reading on that too. They are not honoring the original price on the dish. Your $99 deposit will go towards the price of the dish, but the new increased value or price of the dish has gone up.
I can confirm that.
Okay.
That's right. I paid the higher price.
Yeah.
Now the one thing to keep in mind, I just helped someone place an order today. When you place a price of that there'll be, I think it's still free shipping, but you do pay 1 month service, the cost of the dish, and the tax on it. So I believe it was like $689 total, roughly, for the order that we placed earlier today. And customers are seeing those in 2 weeks or less right now in this area, depending on the supply, but it's taken 2 weeks or less. They're coming out pretty quick now if you're in that area that can order.
So this is available. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this because up until about 3 weeks ago, this map was not available. So nobody really knew where Starlink was available for ordering. There are cells. There's actually a cell. Give me 1 second, I can find it. Over here in this area that is currently on, but is not available for shipping immediately. So actually I have somebody that lives in this area over here who has actually received the Starlink dish. We have since installed the Starlink dish, but as you can tell, there's nobody else in that area that can order one right now because it's everybody else is on a waiting list. And there's also confirmation out in this area over here where people have received the Starlink dish, but as you can tell, it's not available for any more orders in this area. So just keep in mind, if you live inside of this cell, go ahead and place your order if it's something that you're interested in. You do have to have a non-obstructed view of the north sky, and it's not like your standard dishes. You have to have a swath of the sky available to you, and you can check that by going out to the Starlink app that you can download on any mobile device, and you can check availability and what your view is of the sky and whether that would work at your location.
Okay, Jason, can you repeat a couple of things for me and the listening audience real quick?
Yes, sir.
The hexagon you've got, that's basically from Bowling Green to Port Royal along 301, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you're in that area, then you have access. And you said it was about $600 and so for the initial setup?
It's around $600 and some odd dollars. I can actually show. I'm just gonna.
I can tell you, you have a $99 deposit, and then when I paid for it, it was an additional $531.75. So a total of about $630.
And you have to pay for that all at once. It's not an installment plan they give you over the year or anything like that.
Not that
Correct.
I'm aware of.
Okay. I wonder, David, if we as the county, as an entity, if we could talk to Starlink marketing or whatever and offer them, 100 or so connections, which I'm sure we could have, and maybe they could work with us on spreading that price out to folks, because I think that's a great connection, but it's kind of cost prohibitive, I think, for the ordinary average citizen who needs it.
I can reach out to the contact that Mr. Seeley put me in contact with, and we can see what is available. There is a program that they offer, but I believe that program has been offered to localities that actually purchase the dish. And so I or pay for a portion of it. So I can reach out and see what's available, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. He's showing the price now. It's like $683.40. Jeff, do you think that's something the county can do?
When we brought this up before, we're going to have to figure out a mechanism to get paid back. Because that's when we talked about this a year ago, that was the situation.
Okay.
I think it's a legal, one of our attorney question. What kind of agreement do we have to have?
Yeah, I don't. Well, go ahead, David.
Jason, did you have anything else to offer, or have you covered what you needed to cover?
I've basically covered everything. I just wanted to show. I just picked the courthouse address just to show downtown Bowling Green what the cost was and what the service cost was, so forth, so on. But other than that, do you want to take over the share?
No, you can just leave that up. I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed. At Mr. Culley's direction, we purchased one for the county to evaluate, which will be placed in a county facility once the evaluation's done and we get all the hardware in. But we have one up and running in my office now that we set up as a test. And just to give you guys an idea of the strength of this thing and the quality of the wireless router that's provided, we had 11 devices connected to the wireless router at the same time, all streaming YouTube 4K, high definition, ultra high definition video on 11 devices simultaneously with no lag or no backup. So wow, it's a really good connection. The other test that I wanted to perform while we had that to evaluate, one of the most difficult things to make happy is VoIP telephone. And so we did a wireless bridge over to ours and plugged a VoIP phone, put it on our system and tested it. And the VoIP phone works fine. So you can make it. And in fact, if anything, the quality is extremely good over that connection. The one thing that I will caution people is that for whatever reason, whether it was storms or clouds or whatever, the ping times were going up to 130-ish occasionally on that system when the contractor was there with the phone. However, zero drop packets and the VoIP phone works just fine. So basically with this, you could put a telephone line extension out in the middle of a cornfield if you have a clear view of the north sky. So it really is way different than any of the tests or evaluations that I've done on any of the competing geosynchronous satellites. It's just completely different. So it's definitely a game changer.
And it sounds like it in terms of speed and access. How does this compare with, other ones like, HughesNet in terms of cost? Is that something you tried before, Jason? HughesNet or?
I have tried HughesNet, but it has been a long time ago. I know multiple people that are currently using it, that absolutely do not like the lag time, the ping time, and the speeds because of your limitation on how much you can download. One key difference between, and I'm just going off of personal, what people have told me here recently, and that is you have a limited fixed amount of data that you can download within a certain period of time. And if you exceed that, your speeds are greatly reduced. So there would be no way that you could simultaneously watch 11 4K high definition videos at one time.
Yeah, and I've experienced this with private customers, Mr. Thomas, where they have a policy in place called fair access policy. So they call it, if you get fat, they slow your speed down. And the thing that I've always thought really was unfair about that was that nowhere in your contract that you sign or your order or any of your paperwork does it mention fair access policy until you've set your account up, paid your deposit, and you have it on your way. Then you go to a link inside a web page that will tell you about that. So the other downside, besides the fact that customers on HughesNet or some of the other providers cannot watch a single high definition movie because that throws them into their fair access policy to where the internet gets slowed down to an extremely slow speed, way slower than DSL for an undetermined amount of time because they have an algorithm that figures out how long they shut you down for. So it could be anywhere from 24 to 36 hours. The other downside, well, a couple other downsides, cost-wise, this dish is probably comparable in price. The biggest thing, and I'm not sure about Viasat that we're looking at.
Okay.
I don't know if that applies, but the biggest difference is the biggest difference is Starlink has no commitment. So if you buy your dish and you pay for it and pay a month and get your dish and hook it up, and then something else comes along or you decide that it's not, what you need, you can always transfer ownership to someone else. You can actually sell that dish and transfer the ownership over to them and get your money, some of your money back that you paid for the dish as well. So, but there is no long-term contract. If you buy the dish and keep service for a month and then stop it, they're not going to keep billing you. Whereas the one that I do know is HughesNet. They have anywhere from the 24 to 36 month early termination fee that is quite substantial. So,
and I think this page you're showing is exactly what I wanted to see, and well, that too. But at $110 a month, Viasat's got a line that's, I think that's 116 or 119 for 30, and the next one to the right is 169. So that's part of what I wanted to compare. Now you can bring the HughesNet one up if you want.
But the one thing to keep in mind, this is 109. And again, I'm just looking this up. No way am I, endorsing any plan. I'm just kind of looking at the data that's available on the internet. But this is 119 per month. But after 3 months, it's $170 a month.
Well, see, I can't see that because the text is really small, but thank you for saying that.
And you're also limited to 100 gigabytes download.
Yeah, but that's what I want. Folks that are going to watch this or watching now, I'd like them to see what Starlink, Viasat, HughesNet, whatever, what kind of options pop up and what kind of monthly costs there are, because that's something that they may decide to do in the short term until we can get them a wired connection that would be faster and with less restrictions.
Right. And here's the HughesNet. You can see $89 a month for 45 gigs, $139 for 75 gigs. So fast speeds, David, it says right here, fast speeds, 25 megabyte download, 3 megabyte upload, or megabits, sorry, not megabytes, but 25 megabit download, 3 megabit upload. You are seeing speeds greater than that on Starlink, correct?
Yeah, the average speed. Yeah, the average speed that I think, just the number of tests that we did, and the Starlink app is really cool because it'll test your speed to the router. So that way you can tell if you've got a lot of devices. It is a 3 times MIMO device, so it has multiple in, multiple out connections on the wireless router. And that's where you get a really good performance. The router is really good. And just a point of interest that I discovered today is that router is actually IP54 rated, and the router itself can be mounted outside. I don't know that I would mount it in direct rain or anything, but it is temperature-wise and everything can be mounted in an outside building, a barn, for sure. You could definitely put it in a barn without worrying about temperature or moisture getting to it. It's a really good device, but overall, the average of all the tests that we've run would probably be around 235 down and 30 up.
So just to state that, that's 235 megabits to 30, around 20 to 30 megabits upload. Is that correct?
Yep. So roughly 10 times what they advertise as fast speeds.
Okay.
And notice that right there it says 24-month commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So just anyone who purchases a satellite as a stop fix until other solutions can come along, just know that you're going to be tied into a 24-month contract with a fairly hefty early termination fee. So in some areas that may work, but that's the one thing that you don't have with the Starlink, at least at this point. I believe officially, Jason, they have moved out of beta now.
Yes, that was back around January, I believe it is. They moved officially out of beta. So that's a good thing.
Aren't they only allowing so many users per hexagon?
I don't know. I know that their goal is to limit the number of people in a hexagon so that way they don't overcrowd it. That's why, I wanted to make sure this got out, that if people are inside of this hexagon and you're available for instant order, and this is something that you're interested in, you don't want to wait because you could miss out on that opportunity.
Okay.
It would seem logical that they'd want to limit the number inside that hexagon just for customer support reasons right now.
The one interesting thing is, and I'm not sure if it's related to which polygons they're lighting up first or not, but a lot of this Route 17 corridor up sort of northwest of Port Royal on that map right there did receive RDOF funds. Starlink did receive RDOF funds to subsidize that. And so I'm not sure if they're trying to light the octagons up in the areas that have received that. If so, I'm watching real close the area over in the Jericho Road area that also received RDOF funds. So it's very possible that especially in the information that we received earlier, that they have at least turned on some beta testers out or early testers out towards Beaver Dam. So it'd be interesting to see if that polygon lights up next. That was my question to Starlink when we had that conversation, is that they've received federal funds to provide service in those two areas of Caroline. How does that affect our citizens? Are they going to get it sooner in there? Is their price going to be subsidized? The answer was that they were not going to subsidize the price, and they really couldn't say whether they would get them earlier than others. So I'm not really sure exactly how that works, but they did receive funding from RDOF to provide service in the Port Royal area as well as along Jericho Road.
Yeah, I guess the other thing, David, that you can't test is how either one of these solutions work for e-commerce, the folks doing home businesses and things of that nature. They're not necessarily trying to download a 4K movie, but they may be trying to, simultaneously work with multiple customers, and whether that works. I guess somehow is there a way you can, figure that out versus a test?
Yeah, just based on the test that we had, I would, and that's kind of the reason why we did it. We loaded it up with the 11 connections. Some of those were on cell phones. Many of them were on laptops connected simultaneously. But the load that we put on that system at that point with 11 devices streaming that much video, it could handle, it could easily provide internet service to a small business with multiple computers.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you also saw that they're coming out with a business version. The satellite dish is actually about twice as big, and the speeds will be 2 or 3 times faster. But the price is also about twice as much.
Yeah, the monthly fee on that is somewhere in the neighborhood of 500.
Yeah.
And so it's really expensive, but the advertised speeds on the business system is really not much faster than what we're seeing on the dish that that we're testing now. So,
are there any restrictions on your test? I guess it's personal or home satellite versus business one.
No, it is probably technically a residential account that we set up as a test. Now you notice, you see that as a $500 deposit, of $2,500 for hardware. So it's quite a bit.
$500 a month.
So and that's expensive, and I don't know what the speeds are on that, but overall, I think we're heading in the right direction to continue to push for fiber to as much as we can. I don't know that it's just my opinion, but I don't know that Starlink is a replacement for fiber or hybrid fiber system to every home and business, just cost wise. But it is, I think, just as we had said in our strategic plan or our plan for universal coverage, it is a very viable stopgap or to fill in the blanks until, hopefully we can get another solution available.
This is exactly what I thought in the plan. Something like this could be put in a farm, farm building or something, and they could actually run their watering system based on the internet and the weather forecast.
Now, I think one of the differences may be, Mr. Thomas, and I haven't gotten into it far enough to determine whether you get a static IP address with the business system. I would think at that cost, I believe you probably should. Yeah. That's a lot to pay for an internet connection. The home, you do not have a static IP address. All of your traffic is natted through a 192.168, a local address where the modem actually acts as the gateway. So, in the test that we've done, so whether some of those watering systems may need a static IP address. The other issue that I see is like one request that a lot of people have is to be able to monitor security cameras over their internet connection. They use a system called dynamic DNS, where your system actually reaches out and gets and advertises its IP address to that system, and that address that you log into stays the same. There's ways around it. but in the system that we're evaluating, there's no static IP address, and there's zero configuration that you can do to that wireless router besides changing the SSID, the name of the link, and the password. Other than that, most systems, including HughesNet, Viasat, you go to the gateway address, you can actually log into the satellite modem and do some testing and monitoring from there and do some configuration. I'm not seeing any of that in the Starlink system. But as far as ease of installation, it simply gets you a view of the north sky, put the dish where it can see it, plug it in, and it configures itself. It moves itself, aims itself, and you're up and running in a matter of minutes. Now, the speed that you get initially was really low until it finds the optimal angle and optimal pointing direction, and so over time, they tell you in the paperwork that it could take 24 hours for the speed and all to settle down. It didn't take us that long. Probably within 30 minutes, it was up to speed, but it's very easy. The biggest challenge that I see to anyone setting them up themselves is just how much experience they have in routing wires, because you do have to get the wire in the house, and get that plugged in. But now that this new version 2 dish or version 2 modem is actually IP54 rated, so you can put it outside, which may help a lot of people as far as that's concerned, if they can get power. So basically, with the system that you get now, you have a power plug that you plug into the wall. Everything else is wireless through the modem. If you wanted to put that wireless router modem inside your house, you would have basically one single cable that goes from that router modem to the dish that you would have to get fed through the wall. They come with a 75-foot long cable, so your wireless router would need to be 75 feet from the dish, or you can order up to 150-foot cable. So maybe someone else. One thing I haven't really seen in any of the documentation is that cable that they ship with, is that considered a direct burial cable? Does anybody know?
Everything that I've heard and read online on the forums where there have been questions asked directly to Starlink, can I bury this cable? They say, no, it is not.
So that's a concern too, because technically by industry standards, if a cable's not direct burial, then it's really not even supposed to go in conduit below the ground, because you have to assume that the below ground conduit will eventually get water in. So,
right.
Starlink sells a pole that goes out in the middle of your yard, so I don't know how they expect people to get it out to the pole without putting it in the ground. So, although I agree, I've seen everything I've seen that said you have to put it in conduit, but that everyone says, you have to put it. That's what they say is put it in conduit. It's not direct bury.
Yeah, so that's going to be a challenge for some people to install it. I mean, the answer may be power out to the pole and just put your wireless router out there with the wireless link, or if you use the optional Ethernet adapter, just get some direct burial Cat 5 or Cat 6 and bury that in the ground. But other than that, that's about what we've been able to determine through our testing so far, that it is a strong, very viable solution for people if they're in a bind and they have no other options. Just keep an eye on that site that Jason showed you so that you know when you can order it. And I would say order early when your area opens up, just because in the rest of the electronic world, there continues to be major chip shortages. And that's been fluctuating up and down. and right now it seems to be heading in the wrong direction. So it's now becoming difficult to get a lot of electronic devices.
So here is direct on Starlink's website. No damages to the cable could impact quality of service, remain door jams. The cable is not rated to be buried or underwater.
Are you on Starlink now, Jason?
Yes.
Okay.
This is just underneath their customer support page.
No. Are you actually using Starlink for the Zoom call right now?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking the same thing, Mr. Thomas, because you have gotten garbled there a couple times, Jason.
Yeah, there was a little hesitation in your audio every now and then, and I was just wondering if that was going over Starlink, but if it's not, never mind.
Yeah. No, I think that's because I've got processes running for work on my laptop right now.
And we understand that.
So that's pretty much all about Starlink. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. So we'll jump into new business. We didn't have anything on our agenda for new business. And we didn't add anything to the agenda. But I'll pause just for a second if anybody has anything they want to add.
I wonder if we could ask David to send out the results of the RFP to the committee since it's due tomorrow.
The deadline to submit is tomorrow, so we've not received all the submissions, but we're going through finalizing the process once we receive all the submissions tomorrow, and and we'll let everybody know what's going on.
Okay.
I think there's some. We'll have to form an evaluation committee and then rank the submissions, and then I guess it takes board action. Mr. Thomas, I apologize. I've not been through an RFP process before with a government. This, coming over from the private sector and not a company that really participated in a lot of RFPs. The process is kind of new to me as well. You guys know a lot more about it than we do.
We're probably going to have an evaluation committee, which may or may not be this group, and then whoever that is makes a recommendation to the board for accepting the rankings of the RFP response.
And then once accepted the rankings, then we negotiate with the one that is chosen at the top of those rankings and see if we can come to an agreement.
Yes.
Yeah. And if for some reason you cannot come to agreement, you go down the list in the order of the rankings till you find someone.
Yes, that is exactly how it works.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're waiting on responses. Like I said, we've received one that came in 5 days early, which is a good sign. And then I expect that we'll get at least a few more tomorrow. And we'll keep everybody via email up to speed as to where we're at and how many responses we've got. So.
Okay. I guess now we go to the next meeting, date and format. So keep me honest, David, that would be the 9th of May at 7 o'clock. second Tuesday, or I'm sorry, second Monday in May. And do we want to say Zoom for this meeting?
Yeah, that would be the 9th, Monday at 7. I would say let's stick with Monday, May the 9th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. But then everybody keep your eyes and ears open. If somewhere in this RFP process that we need to convene the entire committee, we may need to come back together before that date. So I think on the EVA website, I think we have 14 days after the deadline on the of receiving those RFPs. We have to have them ranked. So things are going to move fairly quick. And then we'll hopefully, our goal is to get something to the board as soon as we can to accept those rankings. So just keep your eyes and ears open. If we need to pull together a quick meeting, we'll shoot that out, and then I'll try to keep everyone informed. But I would think that May the 9th via Zoom at 7 p.m.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Nothing further. I guess we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
I move that we adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign? All right. We'll see everybody back here on May the 9th.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks.